Hey there everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lauren of Lauren Makes Plans, and today I am back with another Bible journaling video, this time in Exodus. So it's no secret to anyone in my life, anywhere, that I have been going through the book of Exodus for quite a while now in my own personal Bible study time. I believe I started going through Exodus back in July. It is now the end of March. I am so close, so close to being done with my actual study of the book of Exodus, but I'm very behind on updating all of my notes into my Bible. So I'm going to update some more through Exodus. Don't worry, we're not going to do all of it because that would be quite a lot for me to completely catch up, but we're going to go through some different things today. In Exodus, I have my journal here that I just got from Hobby Lobby. This is like my favorite kind of notebook to take notes in at church and different things. So this is what I'm working off of today. I'm gonna put that to the side so I can see it, but it's not in the way. I have my Mr. Pen highlighters. These 4 colors are the color scheme I have used through the entire book of Exodus, and these are all just from Mr. Pen. Put those over here. And then I have some other things here. I have my Tombow brush pen, which I can never pronounce, but this is what kind it is. I have a Mr. Pen permanent oil-based marker for writing on transparent sticky notes in case I decide I want to use those. And then this one is new. I actually just got this one, so this will be my first time actually using it. This is just a plain Mr. Pen black multi-liner. It's very similar to the Microns, and you can't see that on top, but it's like a 01. So it's very fine tipped. So I'm gonna try that out today for like writing in the side and things instead of the Sharpie pen I've been using. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I'll flip through and show you what I've been working through on the book of Exodus, but if you followed me on social media for any amount of time, you've probably seen a lot of this, but I'll show it to you again anyways, just so you can kind of see what has been going on in Exodus. I really like how it looks, so I don't mind flipping through it again. There's something sticky on that page. Probably because I do this a lot while I eat breakfast, and I like those little mini pancakes, so there may be syrup somewhere. But I've really loved this study and going through this book and how a lot of the journaling has turned out and looks through here. And this section is the last time that I journaled Exodus on YouTube. I did chapter 19 and part of chapter 20, but I did skip the 10 Commandments. I did do a whole TikTok video just about the 10 Commandments. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I really love how the 10 Commandments turned out. So this is kind of where I am here at the beginning of the book of the covenant. So that's what I'm working on today, is going through the book of the covenant in Exodus, because this is currently chapter 21. There are 40 chapters in Exodus, and where I'm studying currently is right here at the end of chapter 28, beginning of chapter 29. So I'm a little bit behind. So we're gonna try to catch up today. The hardest part is always figuring out actually where to start. So first, the book of the covenant actually starts kind of right in here at the end of chapter 20, but this follows like the 10 Commandments in the book of the covenant follow a typical covenant and agreement format that was typical for that time period, not just for the Israelites. So the 10 Commandments is kind of almost like the table of contents or the introduction to it. So the book of the covenant is actually an expansion of the 10 Commandments. So I'm going to start by writing that down, and I'm going to start just kind of like by marking that this is the book of the covenant and that this is an expansion of the 10 Commandments, and this little section here is kind of like the prologue to the entire book of the covenant. So that's what I'm gonna start with. I have a hard time writing and talking at the same time, so this shouldn't be a super chatty video. I may actually speed through a lot of it, but that's what I'm starting with. right, so there's that first beginning introductory kind of thing. We've got the prologue written over here for this little section, the Book of the Covenant title, which I don't completely love how that turned out, because I don't like it whenever I have to split up a word in the middle and it doesn't end up all on one line, but it's okay, it'll be fine. And then the extent that this is the extended expression of the 10 Commandments. Next, I want to mark this here in verse 22, that the Lord said unto Moses, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. So in the very first line of the Book of the Covenant, God is telling Moses that he has to share what God has told him on the mountain with the children of Israel. God is commanding that Moses, as their leader, give the people basically full disclosure on what is happening on the mountain. And that's significant because these people are like a month out from having been in slavery for 400 years. And they're out on their own for the first time. And the leadership that they were under before, under Egyptian rule and under Pharaoh, it was not the type of system that would disclose laws. The people didn't generally know what the laws were. There wasn't a lot of discussion or disclosure or sharing from the higher up power. So this is established from the very first line that God is going to do things differently than the way Pharaoh did it. So it's important to note that God is commanding Moses as their leader to have full disclosure with them about what is in the book of the law. Okay, so the next thing is here about the rules for building of the altars. So I'm gonna highlight this whole little section here about the building of the altars. Not every little section that I do like this, I end up marking up quite so fully. Like there are other sections in the back that like this is just kind of all marked up right on top of the other, like in some places through here. There are other places that it doesn't get marked quite that much. Like there are gaps of spaces and things that are not quite as marked up, which is fine. But I also really like, see, all of this is just empty, but I really kind of like the way it looks whenever it's all marked. I don't know, I just like it. So these are rules for building altars, and the reason for it being of stone but not on stone that has been cut and that it's polluted, that the altars were not to be made by humans, but they were to be made from the earth that had not been touched or diminished by man. That was strictly straight from the hand of the Creator. And then also that the altars were temporary until the tabernacle could be built. This is a very fine tip pen, but I think I really like it. And I'll just kind of scoop this back around to in here. Okay. Oh, okay, so chapter 20 is finally done. So I've officially journaled half of the book of Exodus at this point that we were at right now. That seems pretty significant. So this is moving on to the various types of laws. So first there's laws on slavery and personal injury and property and community and like all kinds of stuff. I don't know if we'll make it through all this because it seems like a lot, but I feel like that moving forward, it's not going to be quite as much as what has happened like through here. So let's start with laws on slavery, which I think are all like this section here. It goes down to like verse 12. So let's put that in there. So one thing I want to mark is the difference in the definition on what slavery actually is as defined in this passage in the Bible, because these biblical views and laws on slavery are very different than what we as Americans, especially after our American history, consider to be about slavery, that it wasn't the kind of slavery or slave trade or anything that we have had in our American history. It was a very different kind of thing that was going on here. So I want to make sure that that gets included in here. So I'm going to kind of mark that. Okay, so there's that. I can't decide if I want to just mark these, like, I put like key things from it in like all caps, and if I want to just highlight those, or if I want to highlight the whole thing and then just kind of mark those differently. Maybe I'll just kind of and then maybe if we like do this. like that. So next I've got a few more notes about like slavery. So these slavery laws makes supporting the burden of each other's neighbors a concern of the community. So it makes supporting your neighbors, it makes them a community concern. And I'm kind of like, for this particular thing, I normally alternate my colors a little more than this, but because of the way that these things are sectioned out, I'm kind of trying to keep the sections more in the same color scheme, I guess. So like the slavery laws are all like this teal color. The reason that the Book of the Covenant starts out with slavery is because they were just slaves. And then the last thing about laws regarding slaves is verse 2, is that they serve for 6 years, and then on the 7th year they go out free, which represents the Sabbath. All right, so next is personal injury laws, which start here in verse 12 and then go all the way, I think, to verse 32. So I'll like mark it over here, but I'm just gonna write it in on this side because there's more space. I don't have quite as many notes about this as I did about slavery. So in this section, there are a bunch of times that it references specifically about women through here. So it talks about different places, but if a man does this, if a man does that. But then this says, he that smiteth his father or his mother. And then further down it says his father or his mother. And on down it says different things like that. So I'm going to mark all of those that are specific designations between men and women, because there are some interesting things about that. Okay, so 9 times through that section, it makes a specific designation between a man or a woman. So then verses, so this shows like special care for not just the men, but the women. So then next over here in verses 22 through 25, which I'm gonna put in this yellow, I think, even though I said I was trying to keep the colors the same, where I have other things marked in the tan all throughout. I feel like this will stand out more. So this is the typical eye for eye thing that people talk about, but this is giving, not just, now we're not talking about, like over here it was special care not just for the men, but also for the women. This is referring to special care not just for the women, but also the unborn.
This is talking about a woman with child.
Whoop. Okay. Moving on to this, also for this section here is the eye for eye situation, which I have one last note about. All right, moving on further down to property laws, which is verse 33 through 22:15. So this covers a pretty big chunk. See, I told you, like, there's less about each. Like, I don't have a ton of notes about a lot of this. And this goes all the way through 22 verse 15. So then we'll put property laws right in here real quickly. Okay. So first in this section, there's not much here that I don't have a whole lot of notes about this, but the first thing that I have is talking about if a thief is breaking in and he dies from self-defense. Like if he's breaking into someone's house at night and he dies from self-defense, then there's no punishment because it was dark and self-defense laws. But if it's during the day, if the sun is up, then the penalty will reflect. Basically, it's backing up what it says back up here in verse 22 verse 24, that your punishment will match your crime. Right there. And then generally going through here, anything that happened, like any generally what it's going through here, I'm gonna mark several things that if anything is stolen or damaged or broken or anything like that, whatever your crime is regarding someone else's property, you must pay back more than what you took or more than what you caused them to lose. So I'm gonna go through and mark different areas that say things about restoring to people. Okay, so I'm gonna write that in now that those things are all marked. And then I have written here that law brings order from chaos, which is kind of a recurring theme about order from chaos even on back into Genesis. Okay, so those are property laws. Next, we have laws about justice in the community, which goes basically all the way through the end of chapter 22. So it begins, this section begins with laws that correspond to the 7th commandment. In this section. And it has like a bunch of other kind of weird laws in it, honestly. This section gets a little wild. And then there's a section in here that is what is called chiasmus, or I think that's how you say it, which I actually have here in my workbook that I'm gonna kind of mark through here in this chiastic structure. And I'm gonna have to use different colors for this because of the way that a chiasm works. So 22, 21 through 24. The way it works is you may want to just like look up what a chiasm is, and you can find a better definition of it than what I can give you. But it basically, like, the verses correspond with each other. So this is A, and A would be at the bottom too, and it comes together to form like a point as far as the verses goes. It's a literary structure. So it'd be better probably just to look that up on your own to find out like more exactly about what that is for me to, because I don't feel like I can adequately explain it, but I am going to mark it. So that goes through 24. right, so this is the whole chiasmus, like the whole chiastic structure that is here. If you can kind of see that this whole section is where it is, and this is an A and this is an A. So these verses parallel and relate to each other, and B and B and C and C and D and D, and then there's a central point to the whole thing, which is what this is here that we've got going on there, which took a little longer to put in just because of trying to figure out making sure I was marking all the right structure. But that's everything for the justice and community laws. And then we have justice and mercy laws, which go 23:1 through 9, which I've really kind of already marked because of this whole chiastic structure. So I'm just going to put in the section that says justice and mercy laws, and maybe like 1 or 2 other notes, and then we're almost at the end of the Book of the Covenant. So these are related to the 9th command, which I may actually put on one of these little sticky tabs here. Let's do this one. Stick this just kind of right there. And then, actually, let's just move this over because I thought I was going to write something else over here and I'm not. So we'll just put this like right there. And then over here for verse 9, this is saying not to treat others the way that they were treated, not to rebuild what they just left. I know the verse is highlighted in yellow, but the yellow is part of the chiasm, and I'm going to highlight it in brown because that's the color of this justice and mercy section. And I'll just do a little arrow because I love the arrows, and mark it with that. All right. Last is, not last, but almost last, is the Sabbath laws, which go 23:10 through 19. Which, that one's not hard to figure out which commandment that's part of. So verses 14 through 19 are laws about the 3 feasts, which is part of the Sabbath laws. Oops. And then lastly, finally, we have the epilogue, which is this whole like section right here, I believe is the epilogue of the Book of the Covenant. And then down here in verse 29 is interesting because we kind of wonder, you know, why does God not just give them Canaan's land instead of like driving everybody out all at one time? And it's actually, he says he will not do it in 1 year, lest the land become desolate. So the land does not fall into disrepair. So he's going to do it little by little. Okay, so that is it. That is a lot. This has been a long video, and if you stuck with me through the whole thing, I thank you so much for that. But we have just covered the whole entire Book of the Covenant. Y'all, when we started this video, like, this was all that was on this page, and we've done all of this. So I feel pretty satisfied with that, especially with how far behind I felt like I have been with keeping up with my notes. So I'm really pleased with this. I love how this has turned out. I love this whole beginning section over here. I like how it's all sectioned off and color coordinated. I love how this chiasm turned out looking in here. I really like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. Let me know in the comments if you've been enjoying these Bible journaling videos, if you would like to see more of them. And if you would like to see more of them, which book of the Bible are you most interested in seeing me do? Currently, I am going through Exodus on my own time. My husband, who is also my pastor, is preaching through Matthew on Sunday mornings, as well as Romans on Wednesday night, and my ladies group just started 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. So I can show you Bible journaling videos from Exodus, Matthew, Romans, or what we refer to as the Little Johns. So if you're interested in seeing any of those, let me know which book of the Bible you enjoy watching me journal through the most, because I will continue journaling through all of them because this is my Bible, but I just want to put out the videos on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, all those places that you guys are most interested in seeing. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you go look me up under Journaling Disciples on TikTok, where I post reels. Also, the same reels that I put on TikTok are on my Instagram page, as well as my Journaling Disciples Facebook group. So make sure you go check all of those things out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you know when I post new videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching.